Welcome to the final video forecast to spring forth from the year 2014. I'm Benjamin Newman, and it is an honor to be offering this now. This time around, I have decided to accelerate and shift the order of things, allowing me to dive directly into the core of that which I feel most inspired to share this month. This video contains a detailed tarot reading that directly applies to anyone who watches it, and horoscopes for all 12 zodiac signs. All who arrive to behold this video can count themselves among those who are directly spoken to in the following tarot reading, through which a significant dimensional mutation set to occur through this winter solstice is simply and clearly presented as a mere fork in the road and an opportunity for expanded, conscious, and educated decision-making. Okay. Central theme, path option 1, path option 2, the path behind us, and a glimpse into the nature of our destination. Emanating from our personal adventuring vessel through which we experience the living world, we have in this window of time the energetic signature of the Eight of Swords, a sticky web of thoughts, a cloud of confusion where once there was only clarity of mind. This card surfaces when we've become heavily invested in the piles upon piles of specific details to be categorized, or on a larger scale, those that comprise a good portion of our sense of self with our habitual lines of reasoning. When the use of the thinking mind is taken beyond balance, the gravitational pull of the thoughts themselves can become exponential, temporarily blinding us and serving as the building blocks for a kind of waking dream state through which we forget the value of our own presence, as well as the reality of our own impervious being, just long enough to have slipped into somewhat of a mental labyrinth, only to awaken confused. We all do this, and it is a perfectly natural function of the transitional human mind. So we need not be overly concerned through the unfolding of this event, at least for our own sanity. We can rest assured our sanity will return. This card has arisen to remind us of exactly that. No matter how difficult our situation has become, or how blind we may currently be to the way out of our current dilemmas, there are always options, there is always a solution, and it will present itself. We do not necessarily have to uncover it for ourselves. In fact, solutions born from confusion may not be solutions at all, as problems cannot be solved through the same line of thinking that created them. We must expand our capacity to perceive possibilities creatively and under new, unfamiliar light, perhaps shown by the perspective of an outsider. This card does imply that a sense of powerlessness and restriction is at play, but also that a great deal of it is occurring on subconscious levels. It is more than likely that we will only become aware of our foggy mental maze once we have made our exit from it. So we would be wise not to resort to force, haste, aggression, and certainly not anger, so as to avoid developing unnecessary trauma, and needlessly pounding on walls as if they were doors. In short simplicity, we have thought ourselves into a waking sleep, one that we may not even be aware of. This card surfaces in order to bring that fact to light, and then comfort us with the promise of restored clarity that will feel very much like waking from a hazy dream we once thought to be real and entirely normal. To initiate this awakening, we are invited to surrender control and start trying on some new perspectives. We will know we are walking over the threshold when we have attained a completely unfamiliar perspective, and we can achieve this through two basic paths. Path option 1, the Seven of Pentacles. Along this road, we explore a big question. Does our experience of a seemingly incomplete success warrant risking what we have in order to acquire more? Neither option is entirely preferable to the other, so such a question can bring about stagnation. However, this card does encourage rest, but with intent to honestly sit with the question before taking action, not to remain incapacitated. This card also brings to attention the potential experience of completing pursuits and receiving rewards for hard work, but ending up with a sense of dissatisfaction anyway, which is brought about for a number of reasons. We feel we could have done better, our expectations were greater than the results, we feel depleted by our labors, or maybe we just don't know what to do next. Whatever the source, we are encouraged to rest and reflect on what we have done, but with the intent to choose what to do next. Do we risk losing what we have in order to pursue more, or do we keep what we have, seeking satisfaction there? The choice is ours alone on this road, but this card does provide a simple, notable insight. By keeping what we have without risking it, we are trained to expand our appreciation of it, and it's the appreciation itself that generates the gravity we require to attract more of what we appreciate to us. increasing our odds should we decide to gamble in the future. On the alternative path, we encounter the expression of the Eight of Cups, through which a flow of energy temporarily subsides in some way. We can identify which source of energy flow is to be hindered according to which of our resources are most consistently called upon. This nodal decrease can compel us to move into waiting, and we may, for a time, doubt our very ability to shape our lives for ourselves and become stagnant, so we can clearly see that either path will carry a theme of stagnation. Like the Seven of Pentacles, the Eight of Cups surfaces to remind us to avoid becoming stagnant, and to instead recognize the incapacitation as it occurs, understand its temporary nature, be present with it for a time, and then push beyond it. However, this card carries some additional components, with less emphasis on the need for a choice. The Eight of Cups is about moving on. We become stagnant when we continue to source new actions from old lines of thinking in an ever-changing world. We begin to detect that our influence becomes less relevant as the conditions change. But this is not a curse, but a blessing, as it is the natural order of the universe's way of informing us when change is required. Unlike the animals of this world who evolve largely due to random mutations brought on by changes in environmental stimuli, humans can choose when and how to evolve, especially when we know how to identify natural cues as they are presented through our life experiences. Much of our awareness resides well beyond the body, unlike the pre-thought animal level of consciousness. And further than that, the vast majority of our awareness resides even beyond that which is perceived through the brain, as the mechanisms within our heads consisting of biological matter, amino acids, peptides, and so on, are still mere tools for experiencing the physical world from within the physical world. When we can identify ourselves as spiritual beings having human experiences, or infinite beings having finite experiences, we move beyond existence as mere effects of evolving conditions and take the wheel of evolution into our own hands, and become quite literally unstuck. When the Eight of Cups surfaces, we may feel trapped in one-sided relationships, we may feel a lack of desire to achieve, we may feel increasingly tempted to complain about how good our past was, or how bleak our future looks. But when we recognize these feelings as signs to push a little harder, we can know that we are in fact pushing through to higher dimensions of things. The Eight of Cups emerges when we seek higher truth, and when we honestly listen to its message, whispered through the decrease of our usual energy flow, we can attain the means to find what we seek. Imagine yourself floating down a river, in a canoe, when suddenly you find yourself in a stagnant pool or a swamp. If you then take out the oars and row a little, you're likely to return to the river before long. In this stagnant pool, it may take longer to cover the same distance we were able to cover in the full flow of the river, but when we return, we will have an expanded appreciation of it, and we'll have gotten there by our own strength and decision to act when we could have remained immobile. As we return to center, we can do so with more insight into the nature of the cloud of confusion spoken of by the Eight of Swords. We are being asked to act, either by waiting until the fog clears, or by weighing the pros and cons of keeping what we have versus acquiring more, or by taking the fog and the stagnation born from it as a sign to act now, or by moving on entirely, summoning the will required to push beyond our current circumstances. Both paths do require new perspectives, so it is highly recommended that a pursuit of these new perspectives takes place either way. For reasons I will speak to later, we are going to bypass the card that speaks of our past and move directly to that which reveals the nature of our fate, the Page of Cups. This card surfaces when we enter into a childlike state, when we attain a restored sense of wonder and innocence, in awe at the sight of the world's countless mysteries. From this place, we dream of what could be and what might be. This card not only reminds us of the importance of dreaming, but also the value of pursuing our dreams. In the Fate section, this card speaks of a new level of pleasure and happiness, perhaps in existing relationships, or in the rise of new ones. Often, this energy manifests out of the blue, which enhances its exciting and fairy tale-like nature. This is definitely one of those cards that when placed in the Fate section can and should ripple back to lubricate the entire process, to ease the challenges at hand, to increase clarity, to summon the willpower to push through stagnant pools while settling deeply into presence. We must be willing to dream. We must cultivate our sense of awe and wonder at the sight of all that is or all that could be. In fact, the focus here should be much less on choosing between two paths, and much more on simply entering the childlike state, removing some of our seriousness, allowing all that we do not know to comfort us in our delight as we imagine what could be, believing in our dreams. Regarding our past, it is no meaningless coincidence that I happen to have drawn the very card that was the central theme of last month's tarot reading. I invite you to return to that reading if you have any desire to gain more clarity on how this has come to be. It is not at all unusual that such perfect alignments would occur between readings. The intelligence here far surpasses that of my own perceptions. So now, for the sake of additional specificity, we will briefly explore with our little buddy how the events to come might mold the experience of the 12 zodiac signs. We all contain ingredients from each sign, so I invite you to feel into all of the information as a whole, but of course keep a special ear out for the information pertaining to your individual sun signs and rising signs.
Okay, here we go. Let's dive right in. Aries. Jupiter and Venus come together in your 5th and 9th house, gifting a lucky boost early on. Mars moves into Aquarius, who feeds your fire with his air, broadening your perspective. Uranus moves into your sign and squares Pluto. Are you getting in your own way? Taurus. The Sun and Jupiter combine in your 8th and 4th house, bearing new information for you to absorb. Uranus and Pluto in your 12th and 9th house beckon you to discover your own power. Go within and dissolve some of your most rigid beliefs to do so. Gemini. The full moon in your sign encourages you to reinvent yourself and re-examine your own habits and needs while increasing your sensitivities. Sensitive and strong must be your mantra. Consider what you might be suppressing. Cancer. Mars moves into Aquarius in your 8th house, urging you to manage your finances and seek financial partnerships. People are more willing to fund your projects right now. The moon in your 12th house says take some time off for space and silence. Leo. Balance freedom with discipline. Mars moves into your 7th house. Be proactive with your relationships and push yourself a little more than usual, but recognize when to tone it down. The full moon in your 11th house asks, what do you really want? Virgo. The full moon in your 10th house drives you to examine your career aspirations. Venus in your 5th house delivers a boost in the areas of fun and play. The Sun and Jupiter open your mind to look through different lenses this month. Libra, look for that aha moment as your 9th house lights up and dissolves old beliefs. Clean house by mid-month and add some new sensory delights. A helpful mentor is awaiting your readiness. Scorpio, Saturn leaves your sign at the end of the month and leaves a gift. The moon enters your sign and prepares you for it. Get to the bottom of your questions. Venus moves into your 3rd house, easing your exchanges and enhancing communication. Sagittarius, Pluto and Uranus combine in your 2nd and 5th house, encouraging you to seek creative solutions and assisting you in doing so by presenting the need. Mars leaves your house of resources, but Venus, Mercury, and the Sun enter it. Big changes there. Capricorn, Venus moves into your home house, bearing love and money. Use this window of time to give to yourself and do what you most enjoy. Sun, Venus, and Jupiter in your 12th and 8th house bring vast intelligence, pushing you to expand yourself spiritually and psychologically. Aquarius, social circles expand, aided by Jupiter, Venus, and the Sun in your 7th and 11th house. Later in the month, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun light up your 12th house with the new moon, pushing you into deep contemplation. Roll with it, sit quietly, meditate, and prioritize. Pisces, Venus, and Jupiter in your 6th and 10th house encourage and aid collaboration. The Sun steps in, enhancing your reputation within your collaborative pursuits. Mars moves into your home house, pushing your work behind the scenes. Saturn affects us all this month as it moves out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius, where it shall remain for the next 3 years, giving us all the impetus and the tools to make our biggest dreams a reality.
Okay, this message has been a pleasure to deliver. Contact me for a personal session in which I provide insight into the mechanics of your life and your world, using a combination of astrology, tarot, and a method called human design, which draws from the I Ching, astrology, the Kabbalistic tree of life, and the Indian chakra system to literally map out your unique personal wiring, allowing me to offer very specific individualized strategies designed to optimize the circuitry of your entire being. Sessions typically last 1 to 2 hours and are priced within a sliding scale between $75 and $100. Depending on which exchange feels best for you. Contact me at facebook.com/HeliosAscending or send an email to manyfacesofhelios@gmail.com to inquire about anything at all. Check back next month for another Helios forecast. And if you like any of the backgrounds you have seen in any of these videos, or backgrounds you will see in future videos, and would like to use them for your own work, please feel free to contact me for information on how you can acquire them. Until next time, I wish you all well, and I hope to continue seeing an increase in personal inquiries of all kinds. Thank you for joining me.